Today we're talking about our predictions for 2025 when it comes to biblical media. Now for the last year we've been talking about all these new shows that are coming out and what is to be expected of 2025, but now that we're actually here, what are my predictions for what is actually going to happen? First, let's start off with this. I think one of the shows that we're excited for this year is going to flop. This is a negative prediction, yes, but I do think that it's impossible for all the shows that we're excited for to be amazing. And I think that there's a lot of these other shows that might miss the mark slightly. I don't know which one it's going to be. I don't know where it's going to happen. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I do believe that at least one of the shows that we're excited for this year is going to flop. Now, of course, all over the place, we're seeing these new shows pop up, things like Testament, the Promised Land series, House of David. These are kind of the main three that we're excited for going into 2025, but there's a lot more projects than that. King of Kings, Light of the World, we have the David movie. There's so many things that are coming out that are going to be just amazing. And because of this, my second prediction is that fandoms will just explode for these biblical media projects over the next year. In 2025, things are going to change. Whereas right now, basically the biggest fandom is The Chosen, I think we're going to see these other fandoms start to explode. People that may not resonate as much with The Chosen will then really love House of David, or maybe people that don't like either of those will really resonate with Testament. And I think because of this, we're going to see new fandoms start to just explode in the biblical media landscape overall. This, of course, is something that we're very excited for on this channel, as we're going to be talking about all these shows and we're going to be breaking down whether they are accurate or not, whether their first seasons really, do what they promised they would do, or if they're kind of a letdown, as we talked about in our first point. Now, moving on to number 3, I believe that The Chosen Season 5 will break records unlike everything we've ever seen before. I think Season 3 and Season 4 of The Chosen have been amazing, but now, for sure, The Chosen is mainstream, especially after Season 4. And it's getting to the point where The Chosen is getting very serious in its storytelling. It's not as much Jesus kind of joking around and having fun, but now it's really into the thick of it when it comes to the crucifixion and everything that's going to be happening there. We're getting into the end game of The Chosen, and what that looks like is pretty intense. And we're going to be talking about that a little bit more later as well. But I do think that The Chosen will break records, whether that is theatrical records when it releases in theaters in April and March, or if that is records to do with the release later on in the app and seeing how many people actually come to it. Maybe it's YouTube records where they release the episodes on YouTube and we have the biggest number of concurrent viewers. I think there's going to be some different records that are broken this year when it comes to The Chosen. I think that is without a doubt going to happen. Next up, let's talk about what the response to a lot of these shows is going to be. I think on one hand, like I said, there's going to be a growing fandom. There's going to be a lot of people that really love these shows and they want to pour into them. They want to learn from them. They want more amazing Christian content. But then there's also going to be the other side that grows, which is going to be the criticism for these shows. Things that we see right now for The Chosen, for example, there's even full channels that are dedicated to attacking The Chosen. I think we're going to see the same thing with a lot of these other biblical media pieces. I think in general, this really comes from a lot of these kind of watchdogs, as they call themselves, watching out for Christian entertainment or Christian media and really calling out every single little nitpicky thing in order to make it so that these things shouldn't or can't exist. Now, I don't think this is actually going to have a huge effect. Just like always, I think people are going to like what they like and they're going to hate what they hate. You don't have to love The Chosen in order to be a good Christian, right? I don't think that's the case. However, I do believe that there's people that take it too far and they attack and they attack and they attack. And I don't believe that's the spirit of what God has asked us to do when we're interacting with other people here on earth. So I think that may take it a bit too far, but we're going to see a lot of criticism, not only for The Chosen Season 5, but also for a lot of these other projects. They're going to be scrutinized like nothing else because these projects are new. We've never had a year when we have 5, 6, 7, 8 new Christian projects that are huge coming out in 1 year. We're lucky if we even get one most of the time. So things are definitely changing here. Now, the next one is a pretty big prediction overall, and that is that House of David will be the best performing show of the year. The best performing show of 2025. This is a show that's coming out on Amazon Prime, but House of David itself is from the Wonder Project, started by John Irwin. Dallas Jenkins is a part of this, and there's some really interesting things happening with this show. I have seen nothing but green flags, and it looks really amazing. The budget is obviously huge. They shot a lot of this in Greece with big war scenes and massive things like David and Goliath. There's huge things happening in this show that are very much unlike The Chosen. It reminds me almost more of Game of Thrones than it does The Chosen. This big kind of battle scenes and big moments, but also really interesting deep dives into these characters from the Bible. We're going to see people like Samuel and David, and of course King Saul and Jonathan and Michal. And there's going to be so many people in this that are going to bring us back to scripture. I think it's just going to be chef's kiss this year. So I believe that House of David will be the best performing show of 2025. I will say caveated other than The Chosen. And that is because The Chosen has had so much of a running start getting into 2025 that it's so hard to compare the two. I think The Chosen obviously will have the biggest kind of record breaking year. However, right behind that, I think is going to be House of David out of all of these emerging projects that we're seeing. Yeah, I think I've become probably most excited about House of David over the last couple months. And so we're only about a month away from that launching. So definitely subscribe to the channel, stay tuned, and we'll talk more about that very soon. But before we get to that, I wanted to let you know about this amazing property right here. We got invited out to the Satilla Retreat over here in southern Georgia, and it is just beautiful. There's a bunch of different buildings on this property, 3 different places that you can rent out, including this big house over here, which we've been staying in all week. It sits right on the river, and it's a beautiful property with chickens and ducks and a garden, and it's just amazing. It's been an awesome place for us to really relax and reset and get ready for the start of our year. So if this is something that you're interested in, I'll leave all the links in the description down below, and I want you guys to go check it out. This property definitely has pretty much everything you could ever need, including a full kitchen and several different rooms for a lot of different people. I think the whole place can hold up to 20 people, which is insane, and they have a beautiful cafe as well, where you can make espresso or, I don't know, whatever other coffee-like drinks you want in there, including some amazing lemonade as well. The people who manage the property, Christine and AJ, are super nice, and they've helped us out every single step of the way. It's been an awesome, awesome week. Definitely check out Satilla Retreat down in the description down below, and let's get back to the video. Now, next up on our list is animated projects are going to soar this year. I think there are animated projects that are really going to take over, and I'm not just talking about The Chosen Adventures. I do think that's going to be a success, although I don't know how big of a success. We're going to have to see, because the general Chosen audience is not that age range, so it's really going to be interesting to see how that kind of plays out over the year. Although we do have a lot of other animated projects that are just massive coming out this year. King of Kings is coming out. Light of the World is coming out. We also have the David movie, which was the biggest crowdfunded project ever. And so that obviously is going to be a massive look into how the animated scene is going to do this year. I think these things are going to be ridiculously huge, and we're going to see a brand new side of Christian media that we really haven't seen before. Whereas The Chosen focuses on the Gospels and we can break down scripture and talk about it that way, I think these animated projects are going to bring a whole new audience, a whole new look into what Christian media can do in 2025. And along with this increased growth of basically everything, I think we're going to see way more big named people jumping into the faith-based space. I think that we're going to see celebrities, directors, producers, all of them from the mainstream that want to get in on this faith-based stuff. Whether that means that they are Christian or if they're kind of adjacent, but they've, had a history of being grown up in a Catholic home or a Christian home. Now they want to be a part of this faith-based movement. I think we're going to see a lot of people get interested, not only because it's faith-based, but also because of the money that is coming into it. Now, this is a double-edged sword, right? It means that we get amazing voice actors and different people like Mark Hamill, I think, is going to be in one of these projects coming up very soon. He's the guy who plays Luke Skywalker. So that is a huge voice to be added. He also voiced the Joker, which is super cool. He's done a lot of voice acting in his career. But people like that are going to start to join this faith-based scene, and it's going to change a lot of things. Whereas we go into The Chosen season 1 and we literally don't know a single actor or actress's name, we're going to start to see projects that may star some bigger names overall, and this could be a good and bad thing. People getting involved from the world of Hollywood and making it a higher quality product could be really interesting, but also it could have a corrupting effect, right? And so we've got to be really careful about that, just like we do with all of our stuff. Even with The Chosen, who we didn't really know these actors starting out, and we didn't really know what was going on. Even with that, we were very careful about what is going on, what is being told here. Is the truth actually being said. We have to be careful about that no matter who it is, but especially if old school Hollywood is going to get involved in a lot of these projects, which I really think that they will. I think this includes other streamers as well. As we've been talking about for the last several months, we see places like Netflix and Prime Video and Hulu and Disney Plus and all of these different channels getting involved in faith-based media. Why is this? It's because there's a huge demographic that wants this type of content, and there is so little of it available in the world. And so this year being a big boom of this content is really going to tell us a lot of what the future looks like. Will these projects all fail and flop? Or will we see a lot of success, which means a lot more people next year and the year after and the year after are going to start launching more and more and more projects just like this? Only time will tell. Now, I think from the Christian side of things, if there is a lot of success in these projects, they're going to be looking at different stories to tell. They're going to be looking at different angles to go in, because they don't want to just tell the same story over and over and over again with different actors and different directors and things like that. They want to be able to tell new stories that build upon the biblical narrative overall. So I think one of the things that's really going to pop out in 2025 and maybe into the future, maybe closer to 26 and 27, 28, is that we're going to get more things that are apocalyptic in nature. So maybe we get something that is a portion of the book of Revelation, or we get sort of like a Left Behind type story where it's a more, modern day sort of like Revelation is happening sort of thing, right? This is always going to be hard because the interpretation of Revelation is so fought over, but I think that we are going to lean in more into that, because online, especially on YouTube, for example, some of the videos that do best in the Christian space are those type of videos, the apocalyptic type of videos that say the world is ending soon. Here's what you need to do. Watch this before you die, right? There's a bunch of videos like that on YouTube that do insanely well. And because of that, I think that we're going to see a small shift toward that apocalyptic nature if these projects do really well in 2025. Now, last but not least, something that I'm really excited for when it comes to future biblical projects is that they aren't all poetic or kind of allegorical. I think that a lot of projects coming up in the future are going to be gritty, real, authentic. It's going to be really hard to swallow some of these projects, and I think that is a really good thing. The realism in these projects, I think, is incredibly important, because overall, the Bible is real, right? The Bible is a historical account. And so the better we can tell these stories in a realistic fashion, rather than trying to tell a fictional story in a biblical way, I think is going to be really important for the future of biblical media overall. I'm really excited for this. Things like the story of David, for example. There are so many great moments with David, so many amazing heroic and salvific moments almost with him, where he saves Israel, where he saves the people of Israel from Goliath. He saves the people of Israel from these other enemies. He's fighting for them. He is the king, right? That kind of keeps everything in check. Even to this day, the people of Israel regard him as the best king they've ever had, right? So there's a lot of heroic things about David, but there's also a lot of tragic and hard and nasty things about David. The whole story with him and Bathsheba, and of course him killing Bathsheba's husband, Uriah. Like, there's so many things in there that are so gross and sinful. And I think that we need to see pieces of that. Not that we need like sex scenes or nudity or anything like that, but the fact is that we should probably see a more realistic version of what these things look like. It should look a little bit more like Game of Thrones, while maybe not going all the way there, but it should be more realistic overall. It should have that weightiness and that feeling of, wow, this is a real story, and I can really relate to what is going on here with David and with his wife and with the kingdom and with the people of Israel. Because that, I think, is going to really help us to have a better image of what the Bible is talking about. When we understand the culture, when we understand the history, when we understand the people that are kind of behind all of this. Now, all of this kind of hinges on the interpretation of the people making these things. This is why we exist as the chosen sleuths, right? We exist because we want to look into what is going on. We want to see how accurate it is and really call it out when it's not. There are even things within The Chosen, no matter how much I love it, that I disagree with, and that is okay. There are just different interpretations for certain things, but when those things go too far and they cross the line of doctrine, and when they cross the line of the truth of Scripture, then for sure we're going to have a deep conversation about that. Talk about which one of these shows are worth watching. Talk about what is actually going on within this and why they chose to do what they chose to do. This year is going to be so packed full of deep dives and understanding what is going on within biblical media and bringing that all back to Scripture. So if that's something you're interested in, make sure you subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.